everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Stitchmas Day 9. If you're new to my channel, Stitchmas is a series I'm doing over December. Every weekday I'm uploading a tutorial, a behind the scenes, an I tried following video, all sorts of Christmas fun. So make sure you subscribe to my channel. Do give the video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. We've got loads more Stitchmas to go. Today's project is going to be this super oven mitt. It is a really small, cute little project. You pop your hands in here, sort of reminds me of a frog. And also you can flip it over and you can use it as a hot pad on your counter. So dual purpose. There is a free download for this pattern on my website, www.avidcrafts.com. On the main page there'll be an area quite obvious to you where you can download this for free, no purchase necessary. You will have to go through a checkout process, but it's free. And then you can download this and make loads of these for your friends, perhaps as little stocking fillers. So what are you going to need? So following your pattern, you need 2 pieces of the outer fabric for the flaps. You need 2 pieces of your lining fabric also for the flaps. You need 2 pieces of the body. This will be, I like to use a bright contrasting colour which really goes well with the pattern fabric I'm using on the front. So in this case, this lovely hot pink. So you need 2 of these, so for the inner and then the reverse. You need wadding for both flap pieces. Now what you need is you need a thermo wadding. So something that's going to allow you to be able to use this with heat. So you can take those items out of the oven or pop your hot pad on. So thermo wadding, the wadding that's got the silver backing on is great. If you are going to use this as a hot pad, what you'll need to do is get 2 pieces of that wadding with the silver on, and they need to go silver face out. So you've got silver on one side, silver on the other side, so you can use this on the reverse as well. So you will need thermo wadding for every part of this wadding. So you need your pieces for that and your flap, and then you're going to need a fat quarter in order to cut your bias binding. I've gone for a really nice white here, which I think really sets off this project quite nicely. You're also going to need your sewing machine, nice contrasting thread for the quilting, and that's about it. So once you've downloaded your pattern pieces, you'll be good to go. So let's get into the video. This is a super easy project to construct. First, we're going to start with the body. So taking our backing fabric, we're going to use our spray, you know me, I like my June Taylor, and we're going to place on our wadding. So don't forget, at this stage, if you've got the wadding with the silver, you need this face down onto your fabric so that when it's face up and you've got your hot pots on there, the silver is this side up. And then you're going to need another one up this way. So then we put our spray on again and flatten that out nicely. We're going to repeat this process with the flat pieces. So taking our lining pieces, spraying those. If you don't have a spray, you can just pin these into place. That's absolutely fine. And then popping on the outer. Lovely. I really like these fabrics, really lovely combination. So now we're going to quilt these. What I recommend is a heat erasable pen, so you can draw your grid marks on here. As you can see, that's what I've got on here. I've got cross hatches, so hopefully you can see that. So the best way to go about that is to get a heat erasable pen and measure those out about 1 inch lines, and then you can stitch over them beautifully. You don't need a fancy foot for this. There's no free motion. I've purposefully done it in grids, so it's simple even for the beginner. I'm just going to go freehand, and I'm going to do my stripes one way and then I'm going to stitch the other way. You could use a contrasting thread at this stage. A white thread would look particularly beautiful, but on today's video I'm going to be using a pink thread. I recommend starting just where you've started the curve. Start your first line there and then you can measure accordingly from there. What I will also do is do this at an angle. Going down straight like this can be a little bit harsh. So if you start with an angled line and then across like this, I feel that that just softens the look a little. Okay, so this is all quilted. I'm just trimming off all the threads so that when I come to bind, everything is all nice and neat. Right, so that looks really neat now, really, really lovely. So now we're going to move on to the binding. You can buy pre-made bias binding, of course, but I'm going to show you a really quick, simple way of making your own. So taking your fat quarter, laying it out on your countertop, you can take this top corner here and fold it down so you're flush along the bottom line here. Then simply taking this corner, you're going to fold it up so it meets the fold here, and then your lines are flush. Then you're going to take this side and you're going to fold it down like so. Now what you need to do is just trim off that end. So ruler and rotary cutter, just trim off that end. I like to then turn this, and I'm going to start from this end, and I'm going to do 2.5 inch strips. So taking my ruler, 2.5 inches, cutting, moving that one away, doing again, until you get to about here, and that's your waist. So now opening up our strips that we've created, what you'll find is that they have a lot of give in because they've been cut on the bias. And when you're going around the edge of your project, you need that give in order for that to lay really nicely going around the corners. So just lay out our pieces, and you won't need this many for the project. So I'm just going to take the longest pieces. So I'm going to do three pieces. So I'm going to attach 3 pieces for the outer edge, and then I'm going to keep 2 of the shorter pieces for the side of the pockets. So we're going to do that one first. So minding these ones out of the way, I'm just going to bring in my iron and my pressing mat. We don't need to join these ones to anything, they're just going to go simply on the sides. So we're okay just to, what I do is I fold this in half and press, and then we're going to sew that onto the flap. So we're going to place that, the open edge along the top edge of our pocket, stitch that 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then we're going to simply flip it round, and then we're going to stitch it into place, and that really does look particularly beautiful. So we've pressed one, let's press the other. So simply press this in half like so. Lovely. That one's going to go for this one. So now joining the strips together for the outer edge, you want a long continuous strip. So taking one of the edges, and you've got the angle of the triangle here, then taking a second piece, you want to place this at a right angle so those lines join up, and you're going to stitch 1/4 inch. So when you press that open, it becomes a continuous strip, and you're going to do that for the third piece as well. So let's bring in the sewing machine. You can pin this into place. So just using 1/4 inch. Like so. So when you open that up, that's a continuous strip of bias binding. Now this might actually be enough, just these 2 pieces to go around the outside. Let's have a little measure. I think that this actually is going to be enough for around the whole piece. So I'll just press my seams. Now for these particular seams that I've just stitched, I like to press them open. So that just means you've got fabric on either side of that seam, so it's a lot easier to stitch through. So now starting from one end, again, we're just going to fold up and iron that down. I'm going to trim off my first end just so that it is straight to start with. Okay, so let's move back to the pockets, and we're going to stitch these down. So remember what we said, lining up the top edge like this with the pocket, and that's the open edge of the binding there. So just stitch from end to end. That's one. Okay, now we need to trim off these ends. Get rid of all these bits. Okay, so now what I like to do is I like to press this. So bring this in. Press open your binding. Then you're going to take this binding to the other side. Now you will need your quilting clips or your pins for this so that you can make sure you've got that lined up really nicely. And you want to make sure that top edge is hidden. You can trim this down if you want, so you've got less bulk, which I'm going to do here. Then folding this over, just going to give this a little press. Giving it a press will just help you keep it into position. So. I'm going to take my pins, and I'm just going to pin in a couple of places, one at the end and one at the centre, like so. So when you turn that over, you can see that there's nothing showing on the reverse. Not that anyone is going to see that on the inside, but it just makes the project feel nice and neat. So repeat the process for the other side. We're going to do a simple stitch in the ditch. So we're going to place our needle at the top of the binding, and we're just going to follow that binding all the way along so it catches underneath and the top. Okay, trimming off our threads. And you're going to trim off any binding that you've got on the edge left over. So you want everything one neat edge. Okay. So we're now going to pin these into place, and the other on the other side. Just pin those through all the layers. There. So now we're going to bind this all, and the binding is what is going to join it all together. I like to start at the very top because that's a nice little straight edge so that we can join that binding together at the end. So I want to make sure that end is trimmed off, so it's a nice right angled end. We're going to attach the binding exactly the same way as we did for the pockets, and we're going to go all the way around, and then we're going to stop about 2 inches before we get to the beginning, and then we'll join it together. So let's start this. First things first, when you place your binding so you've got a bit of an overlap here, and you want to start stitching from here. So this is 2 inches. So place that down, pop a pin in, and then measure 2 inches, and that's where you want to start stitching. So you've got this excess here left at the beginning. So that's what we shall do. Because you've cut this binding on the bias, you're going to find it's really easy to manipulate around those corners. Just so you're on the straight, and do a back stitch just to hold that in place. Now take your project away. Now, a really simple way of joining these together is just to flap them over. So what you need to do, take the one that you had pinned down, just turn it over by ½ an inch, then offer it up to the one you've got and cut that one just an inch bigger. You're then going to tuck this inch one into the one you've folded over, and that will give you a really nice join. But just make sure that's all in and nice and taut. And it looks nice on the other side as well. And then just continue on that stitch. Right, now, again, we want to trim off all the bulk, turn that binding round, so we want as little there as possible, so you can go right up to where you've stitched. So now we're going to turn this round like we did for the other side. So just turn your binding all the way around. You can really see now how this is coming together. Make sure that's pulled really nicely around those corners. Beautiful. Then going to the reverse, you're simply going to turn it round again, pin it and stitch in the ditch from the front like you did on the flaps. So just pinning this down. You can iron it, of course, like you did before. You'll be pleased you took the extra time to make that binding on the bias because it just is so easy. And I'll just check that on the reverse to make sure that when that's stitched, that's all face down. Get rid of these couple of threads that I've got. I don't want them poking out from underneath the binding. And I'm just going to stitch in the ditch all the way around. Don't forget to remove those pins as you go. You don't really want to sew over those. Then the last thing you want to do is press. And there we have it, our finished hot pad stroke oven glove. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to join me tomorrow for Stitchmas Day 10, and then we'll have Stitchmas Day 11 on Monday. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Feel free to share this video with your friends. And also I put all Stitchmas videos into a playlist on my channel. So if you just go into playlist, you'll see Stitchmas 2019 on there, and then you can catch up on any that you've missed so far. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!